Joshua Cribbs turns disaster into a score!
Ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being.
Washed it down with 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, a shot of whiskey, a margarita, and a Bloody Mary. And I said, Stone Cold, why have one when you can have them both?
Swung out and drilled! Deep right center! Away back! Gone for Tony!
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton?
Awful.
How is she awful?
Hates freedom.
And now, Any Given Podcast with your hosts, Brendan Ward and Ethan Simpson.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Any Given Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Brendan Ward, sitting right here next to my main man,
Ethan Simpson. How are you?
Not too bad today. As you can see, we got our whole new look going on. We're doing things a little different with remodeling going on at the Kent stage. But aside from that, we do have the Numbers Don't Lie t-shirts you see on me right here. The B is a 6, as we've reiterated before. Those are on sale right now at KentStagePosters.com. Where's that, Ethan?
That's KentStagePosters.com.
What else can they get at KentStagePosters.com, Ethan?
You can get any assorted concert poster that, well, not every concert poster at the Kent Stage, but a decent amount of concert posters. There's probably about 300, I believe.
Yeah.
On the site.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty accurate number, maybe even more, to be honest. But speaking of things that are in Kent, Ohio, that's a weird transition. But former Kent State Golden Flashes quarterback Julian Edelman, who of course played wide receiver for the New England Patriots throughout the years, has called it quits. Reports came out yesterday that he was cut pending a failed physical, and that kind of raised some eyebrows. You know, everyone was thinking, oh, Tampa Bay, he wants out, things like that. He wants to go play with Tom, just kind of like Rob Gronkowski did. But reports would later come out from all the different NFL insiders, Rappaport, Schefter, all of them, saying that the cut was actually in reference to Edelman wanting to retire. So after his long tenure working himself from special teamer to Super Bowl MVP, Julian Edelman has now called it quits on his career.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that fully.
Yeah, I'm not 100% either on the whole he's going to be done thing. Look, it's hard to step away, especially somebody who's still probably not way past their prime. I think Edelman still has something he can give to the game. The thing with that Tampa being the one place that makes sense for him to go, where does he fit in? They really like they brought back Godwin. They brought back, well, Evans was already signed. They haven't brought back Antonio Brown, so maybe he'd fill that role. But they also really like Scotty Miller. He's a fast guy that they really like. But I'd have to think you're only going to have Tom Brady for a couple more years. I'd have to think whatever he says is what goes, especially since he came in and won you a Super Bowl in year one.
Absolutely, yeah. I could totally see him being like, look, I'm only going to be here for a short amount of time. Why don't we make Scotty the secondary,
Yeah,
and then, have him take a back seat to Julian Edelman, because Edelman doesn't have too much longer either.
No, yeah, I imagine.
I mean, he's got more time than Brady, but...
Does he, though? I imagine if he came to Tampa, it'd be when you're out, I'm out type of thing.
Oh, yeah, well, I can see that, but I'm just saying with the age-wise, he's 10 years younger than Brady.
There's always that. He definitely left his impression on that dynasty, without a doubt. He is one of the statistical best playoff performers of all time, including the last Super Bowl he played in, where I believe it was Jim Nantz was beginning to call him a Hall of Famer. So I actually brought this up with you in mind. Is he a Hall of Famer? Because I figured you're going to go either one or two ways. Either he's a Kent State boy and you're going to love it and you're going to be like, yeah, hell yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. Or you're going to be absolutely disgusted at the fact that you think that people think Edelman's a Hall of Famer. So which one are you?
Does a bear shit in the woods?
Yes, a bear does shit in the woods.
Is Julian Edelman a Hall of Famer?
So you are.
Yes, I guess he is. And that not just because he's a Kent State guy. I mean, he was a Super Bowl MVP. He won 3 Super Bowls with the Patriots. So, I mean, you got to give it to the guy. He was a 7th round pick.
I mean, I really, really, really want to disagree with you just because of the hatred I have for that dynasty. But now that it's over, you can take take it with a grain of salt and take a step back and look at it. And I do agree with you. He was very pinnacle in that dynasty over the last several years. The 3 Super Bowls, the Super Bowl MVP. Like I said, he's number 2 in most playoff yards behind Jerry Rice, who was no doubt a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest of all time, almost undebatable greatest wide receiver of all time, if people like Randy Moss didn't exist and things like that. So I kind of tend to agree with you. And I've heard a lot of people saying, no way, just look at his regular season stats and things like that. But I mean, in these 3 major sports, we sit here and all the time, all we hear is about how the regular season doesn't matter. Russell Westbrook goes on in the NBA and averages a triple-double for 2 years in a row, unlike anything we've ever seen before. I know Oscar Robertson did it too, but Russell Westbrook was doing it with 40, 50-point games at a time, just a little differently. You know what I'm saying? And all we ever heard about that was, well, it's the regular season. It doesn't matter. What has he won? The thing is Edelman's kind of flipped that. When it mattered most, when the stakes were high, when everything was on the line, number 11 was there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what'll make him a Hall of Famer. I think now, no, probably not first ballot. We're not going to, in 5 years, we're not talking about Julian Edelman headlining a Hall of Fame class like we did this past year with Peyton Manning. But we're certainly not, highly doubt we're going to be in a Clay Matthews Jr. situation where the whole town of Boston, Massachusetts, all those places over there are having a rally on Twitter to get Edelman in the Hall of Fame within that mark. No, I don't think he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But yes, absolutely, I do think that he should be a Hall of Famer. And I'm sick of looking at these stats.
You know what? He could be a first ballot Hall of Famer just because of the dynasty.
I mean,
playing with Brady, 3 Super Bowl rings. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he was first ballot.
I mean, it really wouldn't surprise me either because if I think you're a Hall of Famer, I think you're a Hall of Famer. And I mean, it's not the Hall of statistical greatness. It's the Hall of Fame. And he brought fame to the game, to that dynasty during his tenure there. Like you said, a 7th round quarterback from here in Kent, Ohio at Kent State. And then he ends up playing special teams his first few years. And then he works up and he's a 20 catch a year guy. And then all of a sudden he's a 100 catch a year guy for 2 years in a row, has over 1,000 yards a couple years in a row. He's pivotal in like you said, that run of 5 in a row that they went to the Super Bowl. To me, it's just insane to sit here and call people insane for thinking that Julian Edelman could really be a Hall of Famer because, like you said, does a bear shit in the woods.
Yep.
Yes.
And I mean, do you remember the catch they made between his knees? Like, how crazy was that?
Between his knees, everything he did in that Super Bowl where they came back 28-3, the Patriots aren't even back in that game without him.
Yeah.
Gronkowski did not play that well that game. James White did a little bit, but it was pretty much the Edelman and James White show. So I'm all for giving it to him, but we're going to go ahead and move on to the Browns. Reports came out on Sunday that the Browns were set to bring Jadeveon Clowney back in for a physical on Monday. However, that was delayed, although a deal has been expected to be struck between the two since Sunday. Still awaiting the physical. The meeting was delayed. Jadeveon Clowney should be getting into town actually any minute now on Tuesday night with his physical set for Wednesday morning. Hopefully a deal's done with them by Wednesday, possibly by the time we air this podcast out to the world. So how do you feel if Jadeveon Clowney is the next member of the Cleveland Browns?
Like we talked about, what was that, last week?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about him last week.
As long as he's not too expensive, then I'm all for it because he is injury prone. You got to remember that. We got to pay other players. So as long as he isn't super expensive, then I'm all for it.
I feel like I talked myself into Clowney over the last few days. Well, since this report came out on Sunday, I started looking through things, and I know you're going to call me crazy for saying this, but this is really the first time he's going to have somebody opposite of him that's consistently been there. And I know people will be like, well, he was in Houston. JJ was in Houston. Go look at the stats. JJ missed almost every year that Jadeveon Clowney was in Houston. So he was pretty much the guy there. And then he goes to the Seahawks and is expecting to have, I don't know, Michael Bennett, Frank Clark, all these other guys opposite of him, so he's not going to be the only guy getting attention. And then since he signed with the Seahawks, all they've done is explode that defense. So I think coming here at a very inexpensive rate because he is coming off of surgery, he's definitely not going to get about half as much as what he did last year with the Titans. But I'm very in on it if it's inexpensive. I'd like to give him a shot to not have to be the guy on the defensive line because I truly do think that he really hasn't had that shot to shine opposite of somebody, which is really what unfortunately he's needed for his entire career. Now him and JJ have played a few games together, but you can't develop chemistry over a few games, especially when 1 week he's going to be out, 1 week you're going to be out, and it's just all of that. But $8 million, $7 million, 7 to 10 maybe. I'd be good with 7 guaranteed. He can earn up to 10 if he's on the roster for more than 10 games. If he's playoff bonuses, if he makes a Pro Bowl, something like that. Give him an incentive-laden contract, and then if he earns his $10 million, then all right, I'll be all right with it. But that 6 or 7 million guaranteed is probably where I'm at with his number, and it's probably where the Browns are really at with only about 14 million in cap space left, and they're supposed to take away. If you've been paying attention to Daryl Ryder's tweets, about 7-8 million for this draft class.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad to me.
No, right?
8 to 10.
Yeah, if he earns his money, man, I like the idea of giving him a smaller guarantee and letting him earn it. If he earns the big money, he earns the big money. If he doesn't play that much and he doesn't make a Pro Bowl and he doesn't help in the playoffs and he doesn't help the Browns win a Super Bowl, which is the goal this year, it's no longer just make the playoffs. We've done that. We've won a game. It's take that step forward. It's get to the AFC Championship game. It's dethrone Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the goal this year. So if he helps you do that, he ends up in a $10 to $12 million range because of that, because of incentives. I can't really argue with you there.
Yeah, no, that doesn't sound bad to me at all.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like a steal. If you think about it, number 1 overall pick.
Right, yeah, and people forget that about him. I know it's been a while since he came out, but he was the number 1 overall pick. He was one of the most dominant college football players we've ever seen, even statistically putting up better numbers than Myles Garrett, who we all will agree that is one of the best, if not the best, edge rusher in all of football now. There's just these things that, and he's going to command the double teams. He's going to command the extra attention. So Jadeveon Clowney is going to be on the opposite side, having his way with defenders. And sack numbers aren't the end-all, be-all. I seen a stat the other day that said he's top 5 since 2018 in run defense. And that's been a big problem for the Browns for the last 3 years, let alone the past 5-10.
Yeah, I actually watched something earlier. I think it was on Get Up. And there's his pass defense was like 21.3%. It was something along those lines. Don't quote me for it because it was very early in the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were talking about him not being able to play too well with other guys because he really hasn't had anybody to play with. Like you said about J.J. Watt, and then he was going over to Seattle, and they really didn't have anybody over there. So if he can work and learn, or not learn, but work with Myles Garrett, I think that's going to be a scary duo right there.
Like I said, I'm very in on a defensive line that is Myles Garrett, Sheldon Richardson, Andrew Billings, and Jadeveon Clowney, with Tack McKinley, Porter Gustin, and any other person they want to add on the roster to come in relief. I'm all for it. I think it's a significant upgrade of what they were last year. And as we both know, that was the glaring hole last year. The middle of the defense, the linebackers, and I truly believe that Anthony Walker is going to go down as one of the most underrated signings the Browns have ever had. Just the way people talk about him, the way they say he plays, the leader he can be. And I think we both agree they've already upgraded the cornerback position with John Johnson and Troy Hill.
Oh, absolutely.
Give me Grant Delpit and Greedy back next year.
Yep.
Let's go win the Super Bowl.
Right? Maybe pick up somebody in the draft.
Yeah.
Find one of those sneaky guys, like the 4th round or something.
Well, I think the Clowney signing really opens up 26, because I think if they don't sign him, then you're probably really, really guessing that 26 this year's draft is gonna be a pass rusher or a linebacker that can be kind of like a hybrid, like a Bud Dupree or a T.J. Watt. And I hate saying his name, but he is a hybrid linebacker / edge. So I think that's what they're looking at 26. But if they sign Jadeveon Clowney, I think it opens it up to where best player available becomes best player available, as long as he's not a running back or a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think if they sign Clowney, it's not out of the realm of possibility that best wide receiver that's on the board right there, they take at 26. Because, I mean, there are still question marks behind Rashard Higgins. Donovan Peoples-Jones showed some flashes, but we don't know 100% who he is yet. We both love the dude, and we think he's going to be good. But, I mean, if you have a chance, you have a chance. Kadero Hodge, I know they tendered him and brought him back, but still somebody that is a fringe guy. If one or two things bounce the wrong way, he's out of the mix too, and he's just kind of nixed himself.
Yeah, excuse me. Pardon me. There's a great opportunity to get a late round pick and wide receiver in this draft. So, if I were the Browns and they decided to drop Hodges I don't think they're going to drop Higgins, because that's clearly Baker Mayfield's guy.
No, yeah, Higgins is probably here to stay because Stefanski likes him. Now, if the old regime was still in power, I feel like that'd be kind of up for debate. But with Stefanski here and Barry here, Higgins is the third guy. But I with the fact that we're probably looking at the top 5 picks potentially being quarterback, all except for the Bengals, they're at 5 unless they trade back. We're talking about 4 quarterbacks off the board, and then you're talking about Kyle Pitts being the top playmaker in the draft. He might go before any wide receivers go. And then you start getting people that take their pick between edges and corners. And so wide receiver, I don't feel like is going to be a premium position at the top of that draft for anybody besides maybe Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, and Jamar Chase. Other than that, we could see where the Browns get the 4th best wide receiver, because after pick 10, you're going to see Dallas probably go defense because that's all they freaking need. And then you got other people, and then the Patriots potentially pick another quarterback, whoever's left, maybe Kyle Trask or something like that, unless they move up from 15. I seen a mock draft earlier from Connor Orr, said Justin Fields slides all the way to 15 to the Patriots. They don't move, they get him at 15. My bold prediction, the New York Jets are taking Justin Fields at 2.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it's all a smokescreen.
I could see it.
I think they wanted people to try to buy it from him, but for Zach Wilson. But I truly think they're taking Justin Fields, and San Francisco is going to be pissed because that's who they wanted. That's why the Mac Jones stuff is coming out now too.
That's a tough one because I'd rather have Zach Wilson.
I mean, I probably would too because me and
He's
you both.
He's a pro-style quarterback.
Yeah, he's a pro-style quarterback, and me and you both agree that we're not really sold on Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence, to be honest. I think Trevor Lawrence obviously has a better chance to succeed than Justin Fields, and it's really just because Justin Fields is an improviser, and that's what he was in college, and that's not a good thing in the NFL. Ask Johnny Manziel. It just does not work.
That is true.
It just, I mean, you can improvise a little bit if you're Patrick Mahomes, but other than him, who really can go just way wild outside of their system and make the NFL work? You can't, and that's what Justin Fields needs to do. But we're going to move on to NASCAR. Not too much going on in football. We're still in this kind of lull of a period where we're 3 weeks away from the NFL draft. We'll get more into that. Maybe me and Ethan will make some mock drafts, and I'm not doing 7 rounds, but I can get you the first 32 picks of the draft within 3 weeks. But we're going to move on to NASCAR. Saturday night's Blue Emu Maximum Relay 500. I don't know why I just said it so weird. Was postponed after rain delayed the race, and then once they had a restart, I believe they only got like 20, 25 laps in, and more rain came, postponing it to Sunday at 4 o'clock. I didn't catch much of this race, but we had Martin Truex Jr. taking the win, with your boy Chase Elliott finishing number 2. Denny Hamlin ends up with 3rd. My guy William Byron in 4th, with Kyle Larson rounding out the top 5. So some very familiar faces there at the top 5, as we have seen. Like I said, we've been harping on it for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Neither Elliott or Byron have missed a top 10 all year. Larson won a race a couple weeks ago. Hamlin's been in every single race we've watched. But kudos to Martin Truex Jr. for getting that W.
Yeah, I was gonna say Byron. That he's really coming up,
right? Like with this, trust me, when I was making that decision, and I was like, you know what, I want somebody who's not maybe that well known, but I'm gonna do some research to see who might be good soon. And I came on to William Byron. He had 2 or 3 wins last year during the pandemic season, and he hasn't missed the top 10. He's the favorite to win this weekend in Richmond because it's a home race, basically.
Oh, yeah.
He's from Liberty right there in Richmond. But speaking of the next race, we got the Toyota Owners 400 at Richmond Raceway, Sunday, April 13th at 3 p.m. on Fox. It is the 75th anniversary of the race. Lee Petty won the inaugural race in 1953.
But 75th anniversary. But
yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That don't even make sense, bro. That's 2018. No, that's 2028, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I swear it was on the information I pulled off of NASCAR.com. It's May 75th.
He was born in 54.
Yeah, my grandma's 50.
Was born 75.
Yeah, my grandma was born in 57, and she's 64. Oh yeah, I don't have internet on there, so I can't pull it up. So but
I was good. It'd probably be the 68th anniversary.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. I don't know, man. Maybe NASCAR just had their stuff wrong, and I chose to trust them. Because, yeah, that don't make no sense. If the inaugural race was in 53, like you said, that's 68. So there you go. But now that we butchered that, who you got to win this race?
I'm just going to go with my same guy. Chase
Yeah,
Elliott.
we're going to pick our guys all year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pick him. I'm going to pick Denny Hamlin. He's so due. Kind of like Chase Elliott was at the beginning of last year. Denny Hamlin's going to kind of been in the same situation. So close. Just no cigar. But moving on to baseball, I think it's kind of we're going kind of fast, so we'll stretch this out. But moving on to baseball, the Cleveland Indians are winners of 4 in a row. Were winners of 4 in a row over the Detroit Tigers over the weekend. Bats really came alive. Pitching looked good. The Indians' winning streak was, however, snapped on Monday after a throwing error by Yu Chang helped the White Sox pull off a 4-3 victory in the bottom of the ninth in Chicago. They currently play the White Sox in Chicago the next 3 days, so a big AL Central matchup. Big game Tuesday night, Bieber on the Hill, and then probably followed by Plesac on Wednesday. And then we'll see what they do on Thursday. They've been kind of doing almost a weird rotation of pitchers for 4 and 5. Savali, you got they threw Logan Allen on Sunday. Tristan McKenzie's supposed to start at some point. So we just got a bunch of different things. But they do head to Cincinnati this weekend to take on the Reds in the Battle of Ohio. Pretty much no days off this week.
Yeah, we get to see our good old buddy Tyler Naquin down there in Cincinnati,
who is as hot as anybody in baseball, top of the league in RBIs. I'd be a little more mad if Jordan Luplow hasn't surprised me all year.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. He's just not playing like Naquin though.
No, I mean, but nobody's playing like Naquin right now. It's kind of, but I get it. Naquin could be the center fielder, and he has played major league center field, unlike Ahmed Rosario that they keep throwing out there, who in his own right has not been terrible, but it's still a very, very important position. Center field commands the outfield, and it's hard to throw somebody out there that's never done it, especially somebody who's naturally a shortstop.
Yeah, it's been kind of confusing seeing him go out there all season. Like, well, don't we have either he's playing short or he's out in center field? Pick one spot.
Well, that's kind of like if they're gonna make him a center fielder, make him one. Like
that's what I meant. Yeah,
like I get what you're saying. Because you can't train to be a shortstop half the time and train to be a center fielder half the time and expect success. It does not make sense. I get that it's happened before where infielders became outfielders because of necessity. But here's the thing: Luplow's been all right. Gamble hasn't been great, but where the hell is Oscar Mercado? We can get into that any other time. Is Bradley Zimmer just done? Is that what we're here? When is Bobby Bradley coming up to play first? Because I'm done with Jake Bauers already. He's really hasn't done anything. Has he even got a hit all year? Is really the gun.
That is a good question.
Is really the question. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, he's serviceable on the bag on defense, but in terms of lineup, we really need these guys to step up and start getting in and moving up from Eastlake up to the major league roster, because I know the Bats have overachieved these first few games and the Indians are sitting right around 500, but at some point you're going to come down to earth. And I'm not talking about the Bats surprising because Ramirez and Reyes are both hitting. I'm talking about Josh Naylor getting a couple hits the other day. I'm talking about Jordan Luplow being not starting the season 0 for 25 like he did last year. That was bad. I don't know if you recall that, but it was pretty, but it was pretty bad. I mean, Yu Chang has been pretty decent over there, despite what happened on Monday. And speaking of what happened to Yu Chang on Monday, it's just a freaking baseball game, guys. It's 1 out of 162. The Indians are going to lose stupid games this year that they're not supposed to. That was one of them. If you want to be mad at them, like he said, say what you got to say. But when you come at it with racist comments, it's a problem. It really is. Like none of the. I'm not going to repeat what they said, but go look at his post, and it's just insane to even come at somebody like that over a lost baseball game, especially when they're going to lose 80 this year.
Yeah, it's just it's uncalled for.
It's just there's no room for it anywhere. Just like them in the G League calling Jeremy Lin the coronavirus, like that's just nuts. Like, and that man is one of the most polarizing figures in the Asian community when it comes to the game of basketball. You got Yao Ming, Jeremy Lin.
Yeah.
All because of that 1 year he did the Linsanity when he was with Carmelo on the New York Knicks. You know what I'm saying? That dude is an NBA champion. Like, you got to stop with all that. Like, it doesn't make sense to be racist. I get you're mad. Be mad at the game. Be mad that it happened, but don't take it out on his race because his race had nothing to do with a missed ball. Nothing to do with an uncalled for error. Nothing. It's just pointless. It's dumb. In the world we live in today, the divisive world we live in today, there's just no point. But moving on, the Indians' next day off is April 29th. They have a very, very tough stretch over the next 2 weeks. Like I reiterated, like I said, they have the White Sox in Chicago the next 3 days. Then they go to Cincinnati for 3 games, and then they come back to Cleveland. They got 2 against the White Sox, and then they have 7 more games in a row, 4 against the New York Yankees, and then they bring the Minnesota Twins to town to round up that before finally getting a day off on the 29th.
Yeah, that. I mean, that is a really tough stretch. I mean, not only do you have the White Sox, but you have the Yankees.
You have 4 playoff teams.
Twins, yeah.
4 playoff teams right there.
Right, and 2 of them are in your division, so they better start playing some ball if they want to stay ahead. Stay on top of the AL Central.
Oh, without a doubt, they got to, and not saying that they haven't because they have. Pitching has been astounding. That not a single problem with any of the pitchers that have went on a mound. Clace looks like he is every bit the closer that we had hoped he would be. If he continues on this stretch and doesn't get suspended or doesn't get hurt, Indians won the Kluber trade. Just facts.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
He did kind of luck out, only having to serve 60 games in a full season suspension. So that was, I guess, good. But now that he's back, he seems to have figured it out. Yeah, he was 100-mile-an-hour sinker the other day.
Yeah.
Well, they called it a cut fastball, but it sunk like a sinker, man. It was bad. It was a bad pitch, bro. To be honest. What are your biggest surprises so far of this Indian season?
I would say Luplo.
It'd probably have to be for me as well. I would say that or how Jimenez is filled in at short.
Yeah,
because
that is true. Yeah.
Defensively, it don't seem like they skipped a beat.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, but it's got to be the offense coming off Luplo.
Right, and that's why I said I'd probably agree with you because going from what he did last year, where he was just an absolute liability, you scowled at the thought that the fact that he was going to be in the lineup, things like that. To now, he's probably your top choice. If you see Gamble or Rosario in at center field, you're sitting there like, what the is going on? Why, Terry? Because Jordan Luplo is connecting with the ball and nobody else is. Ahmed Rosario still figuring out the position, which I rightfully he deserves to, but probably in Eastlake. And I know the thought on him is he's going to have a good bat, but it's hard to keep a good bat if you're not playing consistently. And until he's consistently good enough to play center field, keep him out of the lineup, especially with the way Jordan Luplo's hitting. Let him play every day until somebody takes his job.
Yeah, because obviously, like you just mentioned earlier, last season, the start of last season, it was god awful. It's like, how's this guy? Then he went to spring training. It's like, how does he have a roster spot? What's going on here? And then you see him now, and you're like, okay.
Yeah,
maybe
it's like
Tito knows a thing or two about baseball.
Yeah, maybe it's like we're finally seeing what Tito saw, but we're also like he flipped a switch on April 1st.
Absolutely, yeah, and
because like you said, spring training this year was still terrible for him.
Yeah, Fran Mill too, kind of. He was hot in spring training, and then got regular season started and kind of.
That first week he was terrible, but he's caught on a little bit the last few games.
He seemed to like cool off a little bit.
Yeah,
compared to spring training,
he was just jacking.
Yeah,
he was just going nuts. Big surprise is another surprise to me is Jose Ramirez. Not that it's a surprise that he's been playing well. He normally starts out very slow. He normally has to find the speed of the game early in the year, but he's been every bit the MVP I think he can be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I can agree with that.
There's a lot of very bad ill will towards the Indians, but I'm telling you right now, they're overachieving. They are overachieving. They continue to play the way they're playing this year.
5-4.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about their offense currently. Nine
nine.
runs a game, 8 runs a game, things like that. 5-4 isn't overachieving. They've lost some dumb games. But if they continue to play the way they've been playing offensively, everything gets thrown out of the window that we've been talking. Barely 500 gets thrown out the window. Barely making the wild card gets thrown out of the window. And we're talking about in July, in August, contending for the Central rather than contending for a wild card. Hopefully have a wild card wrapped up by then if they continue offensively the way they have. And I really hope it happens because I'm all in on a very good Indian season, especially Sans Francisco Lindor since he's kind of cut ties with the organization the way he has. But we're not going to talk. Yeah, we're not going to get into that. I know how it frustrates you. Where are we at on time? We're a little over halfway. We'll go on to the NBA now. We've been on baseball for a little while. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 2-2 in their last 4 games, winning games over the Spurs and Thunder. We talked about the Spurs game last week, but the Thunder game was on Thursday. We didn't talk about that too much. The Thunder right now are one of the worst teams in the league. They've lost. They were on a losing streak, kind of like the Cavs were a little while ago. So the Cavs took care of business there. But since then, injuries have kind of been a thing. A blowout loss to the Raptors over the weekend where it just didn't seem like the Cavs showed up. You blinked and they were down 35 points.
Yeah, that was an ugly game.
It was very ugly.
It's either they win. I said this even last season. Either they win by a small amount of points or they get blown out. There's no in between.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, for the most part there is, but here's a very minute example of the in between. The 7-point loss they had the other night to the Pelicans. The reason I say that is because they only lost by 7 points, but they rightfully should have lost by 20 or 30, because they're coming into the game without their top 3 players. No Darius Garland, no Colin Sexton, no Larry Nance Jr. And by all means, I don't give a darn who you are. If you're gonna sit here and try to argue that Kevin Love played 31 minutes that game and scored 19 points, who cares? He's no longer their best player. He's not. Colin Sexton probably is. Larry Nance Jr. is the face of the franchise to me. Darius Garland, 37 points last week in the win over the Spurs. But to be without those two and Larry Nance Jr. and Jared Allen and only lose by 6-7 points to the Pelicans, who seem to have been a fully healthy squad. I'm talking Lonzo Ball. I'm talking Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, all of them. It is pretty like it's not good to lose ever, but it's pretty inspiring almost that they only lost by so little, being down so much compared to a team that gets all the hype in the world like they're going to be NBA champions in a year or two. Don't see it, but I guess we could talk about it. You got anything you want to talk about with the Cavs? Get anything off your chest? I know there's not really much. We're kind of in this weird era where they're rebuilding, but we don't really know what the heck is.
Delhi's looked good the last couple games.
I have liked the veteran leadership that Delhi has brought and how he's looked at the game. And I know I just knocked Kevin Love, but I'm glad he's back and I'm glad he's actually playing and kind of making use of that big money contract he's getting paid.
I mean, that's about it. The rest are young guys.
Yeah, I mean Okoro.
He's looked good.
He's looked good too. Like a very head scratching pick when it happened, but. And I think a lot of people are. I saw a comparison the other day that said his ceiling is Tony Allen. I sure hope not, because I think that kid can be better. I think he'll find it offensively. I think he did the other night. He had 19 points in 30 minutes, just like Kevin Love. And I just think the Cavs need to figure out the middle, the small forward position. Like we've said it numerous times. For so many years, that three spot was filled. It was the superstar. It was LeBron James. And then now it's just Chetty Osman. And that's 100% a step down. Who else plays small forward for the team? Isaac Okoro. And I mean, I know he's young and maybe he'll eventually be that. But I think he's overachieved what I thought he would be this year. But I'm still not cementing him in as going to be a superstar in that number 3 spot. It's just not going to happen for me.
I mean, having to replace LeBron James, that's not easy
I get
anybody.
it. I get it. It's not it's not going to happen overnight. It might not ever happen ever in the history of the NBA. I mean, I know they said that about Michael Jordan and then LeBron came a few years later. But since LeBron's been here, there's been nobody even close. We talked about last week how the NBA is just boring right now without him. Like, there's no reason. I don't think I've caught a few Cavs games, but outside of that, I used to catch, like, that Lakers-Nets game last week would have been prime time appointment viewing. Let me grab my popcorn and watch this game. Instead, I got no LeBron, no Anthony Davis, no James Harden. I got Kyrie and Kevin Durant playing some bums in LA, and they got their ass kicked by 20-plus points.
Yeah, that was... the NBA really didn't plan that out. I mean, they thought it was a good idea. When they first booked it for prime time, they were like, this is going to be perfect. And then it just all went to shit.
The NBA needs to adopt an NFL-like flex scheduling program.
Yeah.
And I get there in the West and you want them to play, but there's got to be another game at the same time that's the better game. Give me Jazz Pelicans. It would have been better than that Nets Lakers game. And I know the Lakers bench squad ended up winning that game by a lot of points. Kyrie and Dennis Schroeder both end up getting ejected, but I don't want to hear it. You ended up losing to the Lakers bums, man, by 20-some points. I don't care who you are. Kevin Durant, I don't want to hear it. If that team's full strength, I don't know if the Nets have a shot.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's no question.
Andre Drummond was bullying them down low.
Yeah.
Bullying. Like, he told them LaMarcus Aldridge he was too small. He bullied him. And I guess we'll see. But moving on to our last point about the NBA, we're going to have a little shorter of an episode this week, apparently. Maybe not. Depends on how long we get into this. Nuggets star point guard Jamal Murray suffers a torn ACL late in Monday night's loss to the Warriors. Murray went up for a layup with just under a minute to go in a very close game, even though CBS Sports Network earlier was trying to say it wasn't. They were only down like 5 points with a minute left. You can come back there. He was trying to score, get it within 3.
Yeah.
His knee collides with Steph Curry's thigh, immediately falls to the ground, wincing in pain, comes out. Today, basically Tuesday, that he suffered a torn ACL, out indefinitely, like you said. Why do they need to say that? Anytime an athlete suffers a torn ACL, season's over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no question about it. Like we talked about earlier, you get a normal person that's not an athlete, it takes them about a month and a half.
Well, yeah, because they're not returning to those type of activities.
You know, the normal person isn't running up and down a court for an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, more than an hour.
I was gonna say it's like 4 hours.
I know, but essentially
it's an hour of game time.
Yeah. They're not taking hits like in the NFL, you know, or they're not overly using their leg muscles. So why say indefinitely? Just say he's out for the season. The season ends here in 2 months.
Yeah, we've got, I think, 15, 20 games left, probably.
Yeah.
And it's over. I mean, we're middle of April. Playoffs typically start end of May. So month and a half. This is a big loss for them, and that's why I put it on here, because I think it's already been overstated how big of a loss it is for them. Tiki, we were watching earlier. Tiki Barber was talking about how we really need to see just how far the Nuggets fall off. All the way.
Right, yeah.
Like, I know Jokic is probably their best player, but Jamal Murray was a close second. That's like Damian Lillard losing CJ McCollum or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? That's Kobe losing Shaq almost. And I know it's not that big of a thing. Both Kobe and Shaq are better than Jokic and Jamal Murray. But it's still kind of that magnitude. Look, Jamal Murray was almost the single reason those guys knocked out the Clippers in the playoffs last year in the bubble and ended up meeting the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. And I know the Lakers made kind of quick work of them, but that Lakers squad was on a tear last year. Jamal Murray was a big part. He is a superstar. On any given night, if he wants to drop a 50-piece, he can. And now he's out. And now Jokic is probably going to end up having to play point guard. And I know they said that like Michael Porter Jr. can step up or they have some other guys, but no, just not at the magnitude. This is a big loss. I don't think they're going to fall out of the playoffs just because they've already got such a high seed. But really, whoever plays them in the first round now is really going to luck out.
Yeah, I would. My apologies. Getting the Disdain Sports.
Yeah, you're good. I figured that's what you were pulling up.
Yeah, like you said, they'll get knocked out of the playoffs.
Yeah,
because they were rolling there. And I really like the point you made about Dame and CJ. Losing one.
Yeah,
it's just it's a tough thing. I mean, for any athlete or fan, to see one of your favorite guys go down like that with an ACL tear.
Yeah.
Because you know how hard they're going to have to work. And we saw it with Odell.
Yeah, it almost was the same type of collision.
Yeah, because they just ran into each other.
Yeah,
that's all it was.
Yeah, it wasn't intentional or anything. It wasn't Steph's fault, so don't come at him. Even though we dislike the dude, it wasn't his fault.
Yeah, well, he's for the birds. Hate his stupid commercial. Have you seen his commercial?
No.
I've
seen him in commercials.
It's for his shoe, and he's like, don't be afraid to change the game.
Where are they showing that on?
ESPN.
Oh, are they? I was going to say, I haven't watched any ESPN programming in a while. But I figured, whether they showing it like Sling TV or something for you?
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I haven't watched cable commercials in a while. The extent of my commercial viewing is whatever Hulu commercials that get shown to me. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know if it's on there. Speaking of Dame, he got a commercial too?
He's got a Hulu commercial.
Does he? Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Hulu black and white jersey.
And then
green and black jersey.
He's like, I don't know. Will this change your mind? And it's a suitcase full of money. Speaking
of money, you see that shit Usher did?
No.
He went to a strip club over the weekend.
I did. Yeah.
He was making it rain with bills with his face on it. Fake money. People are calling that man out. That's all I've seen on Twitter is people dragging him for using fake money.
I did see that. Yeah, that was.
I don't know which side to fall on. You for getting played by fake money or his side where
I think I'm Team Usher on that one.
Team Usher.
Because that's just funny.
He figured he'd play you because the only reason you're dancing for him right now is because he's Usher.
Right. You want to get paid. Yeah. Then whoops. Yeah, you got paid. You got paid in Usher money.
He hit the lick for sure.
Usher dollars.
Yeah. People have been calling him yeah bucks. Or Raymonds.
Oh, there you go.
Man, they said he spent $50,000 in Raymond bucks over the weekend. He showed up in a suitcase. Man, that was a clear suitcase and everything. You could tell that was different.
I mean, have you not looked at money before in your life?
At all. You start seeing black ink. Not even just because he's an African American man. Black ink period on a bill. Either somebody wrote on it or somebody drew on it. And then you start looking even closer and it's Usher and you're just how, bro? And I get you were dancing and you probably didn't look and maybe he folded it in a way you couldn't see it or something, but it doesn't even look like a dollar bill. It says Usher right where it normally says United States of America, it says Usher. Like,
I mean, I might be wrong, but when was the last time Usher was president of the United States?
Never.
Yeah.
He was the janitor of the Cleveland Cavaliers ownership team, basically. I mean, that's his highest status outside of the hip hop and R&B realm, is the fact that he was a 1% owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
He founded Justin Bieber.
Well, he did.
Or discovered him, not founded him.
He discovered
Justin Bieber technically is a company.
I mean, he is. He's a brand, like kind of like we are. You know what I'm saying? That was weird, kind of like we are. But we are. They teach you that in media school, that each individual broadcaster is their brand. Speaking of media school, we didn't get to talk about it yet, but the Browns are hiring.
I saw that.
Video content creator.
Yeah.
He must have 5 years of video editing experience. Just short by like 2 years. 3 years.
I'll never understand that. Like, you know, they have these opening positions to get in. They like must have, you know, X amount of years of experience. It's like, okay, so where the hell do we start?
Yeah, do I gotta like go do social media for the dollar store or something? Like,
yeah, like, geez Louise. What is... And every one of them say that.
Yeah, every single one. There is not... I've never came across an entry-level job. I've seen a lot that have entry-level in the title, but then you start going through requirements, and it's 6-7 years experience. Gee, you need a high school diploma, a graduate degree, maybe even a master's to get into the job. And it's just like, well, who are the guys that just wanted to... Where do we go where we just want in? And once we're in, we'll prove that we deserve to be there.
Well, the funny thing is, all those places, they're just like, you know, when you go into the interview, they're just like, oh yeah, just disregard that.
Yeah, and
that doesn't really mean anything.
So like, yeah, like I'm probably gonna end up replying just because like we've been told so many times, disregard that. As long as you have some experience, they'll consider you. And I mean, I do have experience. We both have experience. You've edited videos for the stage. We both have edited podcast videos, music videos, whatever. So we do have the experience. So why not take a shot?
Yeah.
What do you got for me? We got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes left. So if we could stretch this out, well, we got 9 minutes left. So this day in sports history is a roll.
I don't know if we're gonna get through the whole 9 minutes, but this day in sports history, April 13th, 1976, the first NBA playoff game for the Cleveland Cavaliers, which they faced off against the Washington Bullets. Unfortunately, they ended up losing 100-95, so they only lost by 5 points. It seems like this trend has been going on for years, where they're just only losing by a little bit.
Only losing by a little bit. I mean, those are some of the best games, though. I mean, they're disappointing in the end, but I'd rather watch a game that's pretty wire to wire like that than one where, like, what's coming to mind right now, Game 4 Eastern Conference Finals a couple years back. They beat the Boston Celtics, who were supposed to be the only competition of the Cavs all year. They beat him in that game by 45, 50 points. Or no, it was earlier. It was like game 2 or 3 because they swept them that series. So it was game 2 or 3, and they beat them. The Isaiah Thomas led Boston Celtics by 40 plus points, and then everything went downhill from there. Kyrie ended up being a Celtic. Isaiah Thomas ended up playing his final 20 some games in the NBA. Well, he's back now.
I was gonna say he's on the Pelicans.
But they came out today and said they're not bringing it back. They said that once his 10-day contract is up, he's done. They don't plan to bring him back unless they need him later in the year. Yeah, I thought he was playing well. It seemed like he was making an impression on that team. He did score the one night or something like that. I don't know how. I'm not watching too many Pelicans games if I'm being honest, but it seemed like he
really
was but it definitely seemed like he was enthralling him in that team. But as far as the first playoff game for the Cleveland Cavaliers, it was a big step for them. Back in the day, I mean, if you think about after that then you start getting into the the Price and Doherty years and the Craig Elo years, and then I know you don't want to start thinking about the Michael Jordan shot and things like that, but that's the foundations of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You get to me the all-time best logo in all of sports is that Cavs logo on that hat.
With the net.
Yeah, with the net, with the ball in the net. One of my favorite logos of all time. One of my favorite video games of all time was NBA Jam, where you get to play as Price and Doherty. So after that playoff game, you get that era of Cavaliers basketball between the 80s and 90s, and then obviously those both ushered in the era we know in the 2000s after 2003 with LeBron James.
I mean, they had a pretty good team back then. You want me to list it off?
Yeah.
Butch Beard, Jim Brewer, Austin Carr,
Okay.
Mr. Cavalier.
All right.
Jim Combs, Jim Clemens, Eric Furstein, Roland Garrett, John Lambert, Steve Patterson, Campy Russell, Bingo Smith, Dick Snyder, Nate Thurmond, Foots Walker, and Luke Witte? Witte? Foots Walker. Is that like a joke name?
I mean, it could be, but like that's pretty like
Bingo Smith, Campy Russell,
Well-
Austin Carr, all those guys.
well that's kind of what I was gonna say. You start looking back into the 70s, and me personally, I'm very hard pressed at remembering some of those guys' names, unless they're very good. And then you just started naming them off, and I'm like, well, I know him. So they must have been good, right? Because I remembered who they were.
Well, I mean, you got Austin Carr on the radio doing play-by-play, and then during halftime, pregame, halftime, postgame, you got Campy Russell on.
Yeah, with Jeff
Bally.
Phelps.
No, it's not Sports Time
Yeah,
anymore, or Fox Sports, whatever.
Yeah, when did they change that? I meant to message you the other day about that.
It was right before opening day.
Was it? It was very recently.
Yeah.
Well, because that's what it was. I think opening day I was watching the game, and I was like, what the heck is Bally Sports?
The funny thing is, their ad is still at Sports Time Ohio.
Well, I mean, it's still on channel 36 for me, which was always Sports Time Ohio. So maybe they just bought it out or something, or is Bally Sports the sponsor of Sports Time Ohio now? I thought Sports Time Ohio was just a Spectrum network.
Yeah, I have no clue.
Yeah, who knows?
They just one day changed it.
I don't like it. I can tell you that.
No, it seems corny.
It's terrible, man.
Sports Time Ohio and Fox Sports Ohio, that makes sense. And then
Just the graphics of the whole thing is off to me. I don't know. I'm not gonna start going into effects and things like that on live productions, but just seems a little off. But we made it, man. You got anything else for him?
you can follow me on Twitter at ETHSimpsonCGOD. You can follow me on Instagram at ETHSimpson. You can follow my man.
You can follow me on Twitter at BWardCLE, on Instagram at B.Ward52. Do not forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Podcast Given, on Instagram at Any Given Podcast, Facebook.com/Any Given Podcast. Please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube. You won't want to miss any episode. You can get the notifications every time it comes on. I still get notifications. I think I got one last night for our episode last week. It was kind of a little late, but it still showed up. Don't want to miss that.
Oh, yeah, I get those all the time. They pop up.
Oh, yeah, it's like randomly for me, too. I feel like some I get the same day, and then later, it was randomly, it popped up for me last night, but I was like, I appreciate you suggesting me. Even though it's me, I appreciate you suggesting me to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But shout out to that. Thank you guys for tuning in to Any Given Podcast. You have a wonderful rest of your week.
God bless. Stay blessed.